I'm joined now by political analyst, Professor Sethulego Matebesi. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. I want to start with the Tshwane issue since we ran a couple of stories on it. Of course, the EFF is supporting the election of this mayor. No surprises. Cilliers Brink also revealing at that briefing that over the next few days, they, as the EFF, will be interviewing candidates for the positions of MMC. So clearly, they cut a deal for themselves there.
Hi, good afternoon, Vuyo, and good afternoon to the viewers. Yes, once again, what happened in Tshwane is just indicative how our leaders have not yet mastered, they have not yet learned that they need to start respecting the intelligence of South African citizens. To come up and say the whole problems that is facing Tshwane has to do with Brink, then I would say if any performance metrics is to be used, then South Africa will sit without any mayor. Because you can't tell me somewhere in South Africa there are other mayors that performs above the level that Brink has performed. And this is not even about Brink, but it's just once again indicative of how our leaders takes us for granted. And this is typical. And I will not be surprised because this is not a well-thought-through decision that have been taken by these politicians, that 6 months down the line, we will be sitting at this very same situation because the priority here is what can I get out of this particular situation and not how can we advance the interests of the citizens of Tshwane.
It is interesting indeed, I mean, Prof, considering their attitude towards Ekurhuleni, for example. He lashed out at the Ekurhuleni mayor, saying he was incoherent, has no clarity of thought, is scared and threatened by the EFF in that municipality. And he was also, I mean, spoke well of the provincial ANC leadership led by the Premier Panyaza Lesufi and TK Nziza, the provincial secretary. Yet this is the same ANC that they had to negotiate with regards to Tshwane, but the attitudes are different. And I battled to find how he was sort of reconciling the two different oppositions, but dealing with the same political party run by the same leadership in the province.
Oh, well, you've got a different interest group. You will find other cadres in another municipality having a complete view, and that view perhaps is influenced by how they want to navigate around the issue of having access to that municipal resources. And I mean, yeah, I can also very briefly refer to Action SA. Before the elections, Action SA, and we even in public, we know what Action SA stands for. They even publicly pronounce they don't want to work with the African National Congress. And here we are today. Politicians, public leaders seems to change as the weather changes. And that in itself is unacceptable because at the end of the day, we don't talk about, issues that perhaps you can resolve within the next 3 months. We're talking about bread and butter issues and basic necessities such as clean water, access to clean water. And that is a fundamental problem that we have, that it seems as if there are skewed priorities when it comes to the different municipalities, where in one locality or municipality, it seems as if the view is different. And then they will take a completely different approach in another municipality. And yet what happened now over the past couple of days is just once again indicative of that precedent that have been set in other municipalities.
Well, I think he did try to sort of get himself out of that little quagmire by saying, you know, with coalition politics, you have to navigate them all the time. But I want us to move on to talk about the political party itself and what may be going on inside the party. Of course, I mean, there was the high-profile departure, or of their former deputy president Floyd Shivambu. There was a lot of speculation about some of the leaders of the EFF who were going to follow suit, but of course none of that has happened. But there were a couple of things that made me ask myself some questions. Right at the beginning, when he started the media briefing, he spoke about information peddlers and spies who will be planted and who are going to come up with a different narrative in the leading up to their elective conference. And I had stopped counting how many times he actually mentioned or used the word factional or factionalism. And I started wondering, what could be going on in there?
Yeah, well, a very good question, very good reflection, Vuyo. That once again demonstrates that Malema is under tremendous pressure. But what is also good if you are a member of the EFF is that he have laid out and have taken the members of the EFF into confidence, because he wants this whole process to be seen, to be transparent. But I was also taken aback when he mentioned that, because we all know, even in your other political parties, all these things are always happening where information are being leaked and all that. There are always those disgruntled groupings that will take an opportunity and try and exploit that to their own advantage. So what he was trying to do was perhaps to be a step ahead of those who wants to, perhaps create a situation where this particular conference can be labeled as a chaotic conference. But at the end of the day, that also provides that insight to say perhaps the man is still bitter about the decision that have been taken by Floyd Shivambu.
But also, I mean, he spoke about, speaking of the conference itself, he spoke about people who were going to buy votes, who were not activists. He said he wants the organization to be led by, community activists, but he knows that there are people who are going to buy votes and the like. And it's sort of smacked of someone was a leadership that was not really in charge.
Yeah, well, as I've indicated, the moment he spent quite a considerable time reflecting or making pronouncement on these matters, so that once again demonstrate to us that there's a lot that has been happening, particularly with the EFF elections. And the question is why, perhaps in the past, these issues were not raised. Why are they receiving such considerable consideration this time around? What has changed from past, pre-election or conference periods? But this just once again indicate that perhaps Malema is fully aware there might be some elements, external elements that one would want to see perhaps the outcome of this elective conference going in a particular direction, and now he wants to play the devil's advocate by demonstrating that perhaps he is privy to some of these plans. But that in itself doesn't bode well for a party which should actually instill confidence amongst the rank and file members of the EFF in terms of its internal structures, its internal processes and internal dynamics.
I don't know why I'm perhaps reading way too much into it, Prof, but add to that how he spoke about how delegates are going to arrive, get onto a shuttle, get to a hotel, must sleep at that hotel, picked up in the morning, get into a shuttle, taken to the conference venue. Anyone who gets out of that routine will face the wrath of the leadership and everything that goes with that. It was like almost like a school choir or a school, a high school team, being taken on an excursion or a match outside of town and having to be like someone having to look over their shoulders, or like, I mean, those delegates having to look over their shoulders all the time because the leadership will be breathing on their necks. I mean, this is, well, now the fourth biggest political party in the country. There should be a great deal of maturity and sort of, I would imagine, less stringent rules, I mean, than that. These are adults, not a...
Well, there can perhaps be reasons for that, but what went through my mind at that stage was this once again is indicative or demonstrate to me that perhaps such announcements should be made by the party's spokesperson. And if that was the case, perhaps we would have forgiven the spokesperson. But this is coming from the president. This is coming from the leader of the party, as I've indicated, who needs to instill confidence. But this clearly shows us or tells us something that perhaps there's more to what the EFF wants to tell the public in terms of what is happening. And that in itself can become quite worrisome for members of the EFF going forward. But as I've indicated, it might also be he wants to indicate and tell everybody that I'm fully aware, but to go to that level, I think for me it's a bit far-fetched where you want to control. But we have seen some of the decisions that the EFF have taken against its own members where they could not fill up buses and all that. So I'm not surprised by this. And hopefully, once again, this will not lead to situations where perhaps the president will now be labeled as being a bit too controlling of its members.
Prof, let's leave it there for today. We will, of course, over the next weeks and months be interrogating a lot as we build up towards that elective conference of theirs coming up in December. For today, though, we're going to leave it there. Professor Matebesi,